this short video where I'm going to introduce you to the Emancipatory Social Work Practice module. And this is very much a module that is about putting service users at the heart of your practice, but in a way that recognises the impact of social factors on the lives and experiences of service users. So we start with the idea of the service user. And it's very easy in social work to think of the service user in very much a person-centred way. Everyone's an individual, and that is right and proper. But it's also important to understand that every individual service user comes with a particular position in society. And that position is affected by things like their gender, but also their ethnicity, their socio-economic status, their age, their sexuality, their ability or disabilities, their culture, their religion, and generally speaking about the amount of social capital that a service user brings to confront the issues that lead to them needing social work services in the first place. So when we look at those individual factors there, we can see that when we're working with individuals, we need to take all of those into account. The service user is placed there at the heart of our practice, not just as an individual, but as someone who comes with all those social factors influencing their experience. So we have the service user, but this is about emancipatory practice. What does emancipatory practice mean? Well, if you think about the word emancipate or you look it up, you'll see that it's to do with freedom. So what are we talking about when we're talking about emancipatory social work practice? What kind of freedom are we talking about? And I'm going to suggest in this module that there are two particular types of freedom that we need to consider. The first is freedom from. So we need to think about what are the kind of factors that are negatively impacting on service users' well-being or leading to situations of social injustice that affect the lives of the service user. But that's only half the story. We also need to consider freedom too. And this is where it broadens out, where we look at service users' freedom to live their lives the way they wish to and to be who it is that they are without undue influence and negative impacts from those wider social forces. So this is the first part of a model that we're going to use within the module to grasp what emancipatory practice, social work practice is. So let me quickly recap. Emancipatory social work comes from the idea of emancipate, which means to set free, and it's about setting people free from those negative oppressive social forces and to do and to be who they want to do and be. This really leads us to the question, how do we do that? Hello and welcome to the second introductory video for the Emancipatory Social Work Practice module. In the first video, I outlined the first part of the model that we're going to use within this module. In the second video, I'm going to take that a little bit further and talk about how the model we're going to use for integrating theory and practice in emancipatory social work. So we began by looking at the fact that although we were working with service users as individuals, we also need to consider the impact of various social factors on the experience of that individual, both their life experience and their experience of services, and how that is affected by things like their ethnicity, their socio-economic status, their sexuality, their age, their culture, and so on. We also talked about the idea of looking at freedom from particular oppressive social forces and freedom to do and to be who that service user is meant to be, and that setting them free to be and to do everything that is possible for them. I'm going to add to that model now to give you a broader framework for understanding the whole content of the module. In the module, we're going to look at two things in particular. we're going to look at the barriers to emancipatory social work, the things that prevent people from having that freedom from and that freedom to. And we're also going to look at the facilitators, the factors, the things that can help people get free from social forces that are oppressing them and also have the freedom to live as fully alive human beings, fully integrated and functioning in society with their own voice. And that's really what we're going to be looking at. So if we consider the barriers, we're going to be using Thompson's PCS model. We're going to be slightly tweaking it and refining it and getting into some more detail of it by comparing it with other people's models like Dominelli's. But fundamentally, we're going to use the PCS model as our basic framework. So we're going to be looking at the personal, we're going to be looking at the cultural, and we're going to be looking at the structural factors that limits people's freedom from and freedom to. When it comes to the facilitators, we're going to be looking at how things like law and policy can help set people free. We're also going to look within an agency approach at how the procedures and practices of particular agencies can help set people free from the things that are limiting them, to emancipate them. How can the agencies work together, communicate together? We're also going to be drawing on your social work skills and your understanding of theories and models within social work to understand how those practices work at a more practical level. We're also going to be touching on the psychology and the sociology and potentially more generally at the humanities and the social sciences. So we may well be looking at economics and politics as well within that. So though I've got psychology and sociology there, think of that as being general social sciences. And then we're also going to be looking at indigenous knowledges, how you can draw on the knowledge of the service user to create their own understanding and how it becomes a collaborative co-production process rather than you the expert fixing people. All of that is going to be underpinned by the different codes of practice and standards and ethics that social workers in England are expected to work under. So that's the professional capabilities framework, the standards of proficiency, the standards of conduct, ethics and performance, and the Basel Code of Ethics. So we're going to be looking at all those underlying principles and those values that underpin the whole principles of emancipatory social work practice in England. So, what is emancipatory social work practice? Well, let's start by thinking about what we mean by emancipate. So, I've put a quote here, and the authors here say that to emancipate is to free ourselves from the shackles of historical, masculine, cultural, and political domination, to authentically connect with ourselves and with others, and to examine and re-examine our common sense, taken for granted assumptions about ourselves and the world around us. Now, if that sounds like a mouthful, that's because you haven't taken the module yet. By the end of the module, everything in that quote will make so much more sense to you. And where's that leading us? That's leading us to social workers and service users who are working together in a partnership approach to create freedom from the oppressive forces that harm well-being and harm social justice, I should say there, and also the fact free to be and to do. And that's really at the heart of this module. It's very much a person-centered model with a political edge to it. So I hope those videos have been helpful for you, and I hope you're looking forward to the module as much as I am. So thank you for watching, and I hope you're really going to enjoy this module this year.